What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fye and Eric Tabor. We're going to be talking through this Monday MLB slate, 11 games, and there is an early slate too, but they didn't really have real size tournaments for it. I was kind of surprised, actually. I was like looking, but there was, there's one lottery where it's 5K for first, but not a lot of regular tournaments. Anyway, had a decent weekend. Sheets, how'd you do? And then we'll get into the slicks. I know you're a little short on time today.
Yeah, no, not so great in golf. Did I make money after all that? No, I think I lost after all that. I did have a good FanDuel slate, but I finished in the top 10 or 15 in the Monster, which was good. But yeah, I did all right in FanDuel. DraftKings not so hot, and not so well in MMA either. Just not a great DFS weekend for me. And ready to tackle all the many sports that are going on.
Yeah, it's weird. I think that there's a lot being made, and I can't say it's too much being made because this does seem like a real thing. But we got to talk about this torpedo bat thing. It is sort of sweeping the league, and now I'm looking at every other team is looking like they're trying to get somebody designing theirs. So I don't know what's going to happen with it is the answer, and I think the league will probably step in at some point.
What are you talking about?
The Yankees torpedo bats.
Wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
They had an MIT professor re-engineer the way the bats are made. So the sweet spot is basically it's like it started with Bullpen because it on the hands or whatever, but now your sweet spot is so much larger than it ever was before. And of course, the Yankees have broken the record for home runs so far to start a season.
Love it.
So this bat thing is going around everywhere, and it's all anybody could talk about. If you look at our Discord on a Saturday, you'll see nonstop bat talk. So it's every player.
Is it against the rules? I mean,
no. So technically, it's within the rules, but they might need to change them or figure something out because these pitchers are just getting hammered. So we're going to see if other teams are going to use it. Other guys I've seen some star players talk about they have other people designing theirs already. We'll see what happens. Anyway, it's been a big talk so far this season.
No, what I like so much about it. This is why baseball's so cool. Is that I don't know. I don't know whether it was intentional or unintentional, but like it's really the only sport where they haven't, really changed any of the rules. Like for there were mild tweaks or whatever. But since the original dimensions were created, it's so weird that it's like no matter how fast people get, remember it's offense versus defense. It's like amazing how a ground ball into the freaking hole at shortstop still is like one step one way or another when the guy gets there. If trying to steal a base, it's really just as people get faster, but the catcher throws it harder or whatever it is, it's always still bang bang and whatever technologies whatever one the offense does, the defense does too, and they never really had to change anything. It's not like the NBA where they maybe have to move the point back and God knows what else, whatever. The defense involved with baseball pitching versus hitting, I think is always very, very interesting. So listen, if they're going to create like more technologically sound bats, then you're going to find pitchers, ways to get around it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to see how this whole thing shakes out because it is a little strange. All right, I'm just pulling up. I was just double checking some weather stuff, and I think that it's mostly only in the early game that we've got some concerns. But all right, 7:00 Eastern, live at 5:30, and we'll get into game by game here. But you're right though. It is weird. It's the one sport that's like that. And now we're getting. I don't know. I'm just curious to see where all this stuff goes. All right, let's talk about Pittsburgh in Tampa Bay. Sorry, I'm a little slow this morning. Any interest of anything here, Sheets, for you?
What is this, like a bullpen game?
It feels like it. I think they're like a double bullpen game from what I can tell.
Those games usually are not very viable, both obviously from the pitching, nor from the hitting. It's just kind of tough to beat these, to beat a team that just throws guys like 2 innings again. You know what I mean? It's just always very, very difficult. So I really don't have much of anything from either side of this game.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on that. Didn't come across much in my first look, and I think I'm probably good on it, but I may change my mind later. All right, Washington in Toronto, and what I think is a pretty decent spot here for Toronto and for Bowden Francis. That would be my take. I guess I have interest in both the Toronto bats and in Francis.
Yeah, I have Francis as one of my top 5 pitchers on the slate here. And I have Toronto. Ooh, I really don't have much of the hitting here. I don't really have. I actually, strangely, I have more Washington than Toronto.
Interesting.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, that's a bit. Who is this Bowden Francis? Like, remind me of who he is.
He's a good pitcher. He's a good young. You know, he's had some hype around him. He actually pitched pretty well last year for a long stretch. He struggled at the very end of the year, but not in like a crazy way. And I think sort of expected this to, sort of continue moving up in the world is the best way to put it. It is tough, because Washington in general, we know the thing with them is they don't strike out a ton. Even though their lineup's a little bit different this year, they still don't have like a ton of strikeouts. We'll know really in about a month and a half how many they have. But I don't mind the contrarian take of maybe taking some bats from Washington here. It's not a bad idea. I feel like that's what SaberSim's going to give me, huh? I haven't run any SaberSim builds yet, so that's probably what they're going to give me if you're running into it already. All right, Angels in St. Louis sheets. Mikolas and Tyler Anderson feels. I'm not heavy on anything in this game at the moment. How about you?
Before we move on, and you can tell we're just kind of really struggling to get any kind of momentum here, but one thing I forgot that we have to do a little. I don't know when we're going to do it, but maybe I have like a 12:30, and then then I'm free at like 2:00. We have to do that baseball survivor thing.
Oh, right. We got to do survivor.
Blocks today. We have to figure out what we want to do and do a video on it. So I just remembered like 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
So we have to do that.
Okay, for sure.
Okay. So maybe that'll build some momentum in this so far awful slate break now. I have the Cardinals right now as my fourth most owned stack, but I will say the stack distribution is pretty it's pretty smooth. I mean, I have a couple of teams here. Now these pitchers are typically guys that I don't usually play, like the Anderson and the Mikolas. You've had a lot more luck with these types of guys than I have. I've had we've had this discussion about attacking Tyler Anderson before, though. Like oftentimes teams project really well against him and yet end up, kind of getting frustrated sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think maybe this could be one of those situations. Like St. Louis does have a decent total. They're projecting for me as like fourth best stack, so they're probably going to get some popularity. But I don't know. So right now, a little bit of St. Louis and neither of the pitcher.
Yeah, I will point out too, it's 53 degrees in St. Louis today. Not an ideal hitting conditions with a little wind blowing in from left, so kind of makes the righties a little less interesting. So I'm probably going to avoid this even if they try to give it to me. That's just not my favorite spot. And I do want to say though, I don't like Mikolas like specifically in this matchup. The Angels may be extraordinarily bad. We'll see.
They still have Trout. I mean, they have something.
They always do, and they're always terrible.
No, last year they had no Trout, and they still hit the ball, didn't they? Or no,
they were terrible. They were like the third worst team in baseball.
It's funny. I keep forgetting like the way I play MLB. Like I have all these teams like every day.
I know you think these teams are good. It's like you might be onto a trend of something. Remember when you used to say this about Arizona when they were terrible?
Right.
Like, that Arizona team could really hit like 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm like, no, they really can't. They're like second worst in baseball. And then sure enough, next thing you know, they're the best offense in baseball.
No. The thing is, though, is that the way I play baseball with all the leverage and all the stuff, I end up playing all these freaking horrible teams all the time. Right. So I talk myself into the fact that they're good. Like the Angels, the A's. Like how many freaking White Sox stacks I have all season last year, which might have been the worst team in the history of baseball.
Right.
But I'm still ended up with all the whatever. Who's that catcher? I would always like that. Sevy, whatever his name is. I guess so. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But okay, I'm probably not going to end up with Mikolas anyway, nor will I play Anderson. What do you think of the Cardinals? Do you like that at all or not really?
No, I'm off of it. Again, not great hitting weather. I still don't think the Cardinals are great. And I don't think Anderson's as bad as people think he is. And I think the Cardinals will get some ownership. So something you brought up for our last break, our first breakdown, I guess, which may have been our last one, was that there's a big delta. If you could actually get good weather, like there's a big difference between that and like the others because April's like pretty cold, like throughout. Yeah.
So if you're getting good weather, you're gonna get a big advantage here. Like for example, like this Houston game that's coming up. I mean, normally, like, listen, when you get into the summer, you get all these teams that like are playing decent weather, but and Houston's like no big deal. But now, I mean, you have some of this weather is not so great, and Houston, that park is pretty good. So I guess that's why I'm getting San Francisco as right now, actually my top owned stack. Like if I had to lock it in right now.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I have right now is San Francisco. Not so much Houston. Who are the pitchers here? Hicks and Blanco or whatever?
Yeah, Blanco, yeah. I believe, if memory serves correctly, I'll have to double check this. I think he had a terrible spring.
Okay.
I can get behind that for some of the reasons you stated, but I'll take a shot at Blanco's actually a guy I played quite a bit last year, and I'm open to that, but I kind of think both offenses here are in play, and I feel like the total I thought would be a little bit higher. I'm a little surprised to see that it's only 8. I thought this would be like a 9 total, but I think both Houston and San Francisco are definitely on the map for me. And I'm probably going to be off both these pitchers. I don't think I found a pitcher yet that I like. Oh, I Bowden Francis a little bit, but nobody I really like yet.
He's my second favorite right now. The Francis Bowden. Actually.
Oh, he is. Okay. So it's not just me that I'm not getting anything else. But yeah, Houston and San Francisco to go with Toronto are the only teams that I've liked hitting wise so far. All right, San Diego. Going to check the weather real quick. 57 degrees, winds across the field. Not ideal. Low total at 8. You've got Kyle Hart and Luis Ortiz, and I don't know, Sheets. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm not especially interested in anything here. I'm curious about you.
Yeah, I don't mind these guys. I mean, Cleveland again. This is my cross to bear every year. You know, Cleveland, they look good, they project well, and then they'll put up 8 runs and they'll still bust. You know,
right?
Because they get the singles and the doubles, and they're good like that. You know, but not the greatest fantasy team in the world. Showing up today is not bad though. You know what? It makes a little sense because each game we're going through, like, ugh, don't like it so much. Next thing you know, you're at the end of the slate. You're like, whoa. So maybe we gotta be less greedy with what kind of stacks we like here. So I like Cleveland a little bit. I do like San Diego a little bit too. But again, only because the slate's probably so crappy.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I'm gonna just be siding with the later games, and that's just where I'm gonna be. Look, I like doing it too. By the way, it's kind of fun. I had, it was my first times with the late swap for baseball, really knowing how to use this stuff, and had pretty good results so far. Although I have to say my hand builds were really good on Friday. I had both lineups with a shot at the 888 that were hand builds that had no similarities in their players, which was weird. But I like that most of the games I like are late, and one of them is going to be between these two awful teams for me. I don't want to say they're awful teams. I actually think Seattle will be good by the end of the year, but this lineup does not look good. This is a low total. Both pitchers are going to look reasonable. If I had to pick one, I would pick Hancock. I think both these. I think both offenses are better than people think. Although Seattle, I still have my questions. But I think Detroit's a good baseball team. That's my takeaway from them getting swept by the Dodgers. They looked very, very good. The games had like a playoff-like atmosphere. It was kind of fun, actually. And I think both these offenses are in play. And a super low ownership, this is a place where I'm thinking about going today.
Well, so hang on. Let me reset this a little bit.
Yeah.
So you started off by saying these are like two awful teams. Didn't both these teams make the playoffs last year?
No. I was saying I was more talking about awful lineups because I was talking about that I like playing the lineups today.
Oh,
they're actually not awful. That's why I corrected I was correct. I was saying that they look like they are. There's not maybe the name value. They haven't gotten off to the greatest start this season offensively, but I do think that they're decent offenses.
Okay, so first of all, Hancock. I mean, I have him rated pretty high. Again, slates, whatever. It's a good park, and again, but to your point from last week, again, it's a good pitcher's park when there's a lot of other hitters' parks going on. You know, and like you pointed out, where it's cold everywhere, the edge you get from saying it's a pitcher's park is not as high. But Hancock looks good, dude. I don't know too much about this guy from Detroit, but all I know is that they called him up without a single start in the majors to be on the playoff roster last year. Okay, so he's got to have something. You know, they think the guy's the nuts. So I'm down with that. I like the Job, and I guess I like the Hancock as well. So yeah, I kind of. Who is this Job guy? Is he no good? I mean, like, why shouldn't we be playing him?
I didn't say we shouldn't. I just think he's 8,800. I prefer France. I prefer Hancock.
Okay.
Again, it's a good matchup against. I mean, like I said, you could still have a good matchup against a good offense. You know what I mean? If you strike out a lot, it doesn't matter really. How good your offense is. That's why with baseball, you often are contradicting yourself. You know what I mean? It's also why we like to stack in games, and we're interested in the pitcher and we're interested in stacking against them. So that's why we have as you always say, the four prongers situation. And I think this is one of those type of games to me. But no, I think Job is in play, and just in terms of I believe I looked at his strikeout prop earlier. Let me see if it's the same. Yeah, I mean, he's got it's over 5 early in the year, but he's 8,800. I'll stick with my take. Most of the days, I don't think you're going to win with pitching performances early in the year. I think most guys are going to be in the same range a lot of the time. But if you want some upside, I do think he's got enough to be considered at least. I'll keep him on my list, even though I was gonna fade it because I actually think he's gonna be fairly popular. And we got Eric Johnson. You know it's baseball season when Eric Johnson's back in business and he's coming talking about the A's because it's the first game in Sacramento for the A's. Eric Johnson is always on the A's, and Eric has not been with us lately, but I have now become on the A's bandwagon, and I think the A's are going to have a very productive year. I think they'll be above 500 team, and I think that we're going to end up winning a lot of money with them because I think this offense is decent, and take them out of Oakland. This is going to be a much better offense in my opinion. So I'm in on the A's this year in general.
First of all, it was kind of got ripped off a little bit. Like all the Sims and all the stuff, and all of us were like kind of trying to jam in the A's against Chalk Castillo. They put up 7 freaking runs.
Yeah.
Didn't quite get it done though. You know, it was a kind of not fair in a way. You know, it's like, but these A's are literally in play every day. And the other things, I don't know what you told me. The Sacramento Park is pretty neutral in general.
The things I've read have said average to potentially slightly above average, but that's a huge upgrade for them in general. And the Cubs, by the way, are a very good offensive team as well. So.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I like both. I like 3 prongs in this. I do like Ben Brown for the Cubs, and I do like both sides of the hitting here. So I like this game quite a bit.
Yeah, I think this is one I'm going to be heavy on. Probably my second heaviest spot, maybe my heaviest. I think the Cubs will be pretty popular by the end of the day, but they are expensive, so it's not that easy to get them in. You've got guys like Amaya, their catcher Amaya is 2,200 if you want to get that. But I'm going to be into the A's this year, and I will take a gamble against Ben Brown, and I like this game quite a bit. Eric Johnson is on the A's winning the World Series. He can't just stand with it. Eric is like, if he makes a good hot take that it actually is a good one, it's too much for him. He has to go with an even hotter take. I don't think they're going to win the World Series this year, but hey, it's possible, I guess. All right, now we've got my Dodgers and Braves sheets, and they're going to be the chalky glass now. Best pitcher on the slate, probably. Well, not probably, almost definitely at the moment. And the Dodgers are going to look pretty good, so I'm curious to see what you think here.
Yeah, this is unfortunately going to be a theme with the Dodgers and me with their pricing. I'm getting 0 Dodgers like every day. And we'll just see what happens, I guess. There's going to be some days I guess I'll have to play them. But right now, running it, I'm getting like 4% Dodgers just because I can't get them. I guess that's the way it is.
Yeah.
The glass now, I'm getting, 700% glass now, right now. Literally 90%. It is kind of strange to have 90% anybody against the Braves when you think about it. And Glass now has been, great his whole career, really. But every once in a while,
yeah,
every once in a while he'll throw a dud out there. There will definitely be lineups where I will be happy to not have it. You get like you get a Hancock, Job. Who's the other decent one? There are a couple of pitchers that were, the guy from Toronto. There are lineups where you could just play those guys and not play Glass now, and those could work. The problem is that like we talk about this a lot when you're saving money for pitching. Like, what are you saving it for?
Right.
Like what bats do you really need? Like, there's no like Rocky game where you need to pay up. There's no I mean, what you could do is you could pay down a little bit so you can get to the Dodgers, but it's not like these other guys are that cheap. It's like if the Glass now and the Job and the Francis were like 6,000 or something, then I would say sure, double spend then double pay down, then you could go play the Dodgers. But I don't know. I think Glass now and one of those two with some other San Francisco stack or something. Look, if I had to just like close my eyes and say, okay, what do I want to do? I would probably play Glass now with Job with San Francisco or something like that. But I'm going to run the Sims and see what they give me a little later.
Yeah, and I think that I like Glass now, but I don't think. Look, any pitcher against the Braves, I'm not going to just say like, well, that's an easy big game. This is still a very good offense. There's just not a lot of great options today. Like that's why Kyle Hart, I think, is projected to have some ownership. That's why Ben Brown is going to get some ownership, and why even Mikolas is going to get a little bit of ownership, because I think to get to the Dodgers and the Cubs, who are probably the two best offenses to get to on this slate, it is hard to without saving. One thing I'll point out, though, the Dodgers, as much as they are an expensive team, you aren't going to have players this like Conforto is going to be 4,500 before you know it. Pages, if he keeps starting, is going to be 4K before you know it. He's 2,800. So you got value that you're not going to have later in the year with the Dodgers. I'm just throwing that out there. And Ohtani, by the way, is still stealing bases and hitting home runs. So I don't know what the hell how not to do it.
So I will continue to instruct as well as I can. So without running the Sims, okay. My top owned stacks, as I mentioned, were San Francisco, Cleveland, Chicago, St. Louis, and the highest owned were like 18%. And when I run the Sims, everybody knows what I'm going to be getting, which is, guess what? 98% Atlanta. So, Saber Sims in a mood. They're in a mood to start the season, and they're laying down the law. You know what I mean? Like if you really want to try to play this game, that's what you're going to have to fight for the foreseeable future. Is this type of exposure? Instinctively, I think that I don't need to do this, so it's going to listen. It's like anything else. It's a challenge, and baseball specifically, because the difference between what you get before running the Sims and what you get after is just wild. So it's not like basketball where, oh boy, do I want to get 34% of the chalk guy or 39%? It's not like that. In baseball, you're like a completely different build when you start applying this stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what I end up doing. I'm inclined to not play 98% Atlanta. I will say that. And I would rather try to probably get different elsewhere by maybe playing Glass now and playing kind of a lower owned hitting stack, as opposed to just go with full on Atlanta, full leverage against Glass now. But I don't know. We'll see what kind of mood I'm in. Saberson wants to be in a mood. Maybe I could be in a mood. So we'll see. We'll see what I do.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I'm going to be highest on as of right now: Dodgers, Oakland, Chicago, and Toronto. And Glass now is the only pitcher that I have circled as a priority. So I'll see what things give me. But I do think you can. I do think you can play around when it comes to stacks and stuff. I wouldn't. And again, I sort of going back to one quick conversation Cheeks and I were having about basketball, about changing too many projections. It's a little different though. If you want to commit yourself to primarily to 4 stacks, I don't think you're losing a lot by doing that. I really don't. I'm not saying that it's the optimum way to go.
What do you mean by 4? But what do you mean committing?
Like if I want to just play the Dodgers, Oakland, Chicago, and Toronto today, that's a reasonable way you could put your own take in and use SaberSim. I'm saying. No,
it is. I'm just trying to think of what you're costing. Like if if you were going to get like a whole bunch of a team and then you give it yourself 0, I think that I might be asking for it. So what I would do is if you like those 4, I would see what it looked like without making those rules first. You know what I mean? And then
I think for new users that's fine. I personally am going to do what I'm going to do because I'm going to play those stacks. But I don't. You're right. I like running it just pure first and then doing my stuff.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. But again, I'm not saying it's something that we're off to a pretty good start. But we'll we'll see how this year goes. I mean, I told you it took me a while to get the hang of it for football and for basketball, and now it's just, it's my first baseball where I'm really relying more on them. And fortunately for those of you out there, I'll turn it into a real quick sales pitch before we get out of here. No, but we've got Sheets and Goldie's projections every day. That's what I use primarily, almost exclusively. Occasionally, I'll use a combination of those with Saber Sims in our packages, and we've got in our projections. And we've got some great packages out there. So check out the site. We've got some trials. Even if you've used the trial before, you can use it again because we've added pay dirt and a lot of other tools. So yeah, check it out. Sheets, anything else before we get out of here? I know you got to get out of here pretty soon.
No. Yeah, I do have something to say actually. Again, for people that are used to playing football and then basketball, whatever, baseball is weird as far as distribution of your results. Like I had a really good baseball season last year, but it was just from, not just from, this is good. It was because of like a lot of just wins. You know what I mean? Like, and the wins were among like big stretches of like a bunch of lasts, and when I say last, I don't mean actual last, but there's a lot of baseball slates where you'll get some, if you're playing it right, you're going to get some awful like graphs of like everything pinned off of like, to the left in the DraftKings tracker or whatever it is, or even the FanDuel tracker. It's just something you're going to have to embrace in baseball, and hey, it's possible you go the whole season without hitting something, and that happens too. But if you get too chalky in baseball, you're just going to get grinded into submission. Like if you end up like playing like these, the road team in Colorado, you know what I mean, like all the time. You're gonna feel like you're in the money a lot, but it's just so hard to win like that.
Yeah.
You have to embrace what baseball is, and think about it. They brought an MIT professor to change the bat a little bit. Next thing you know, team's hitting 20 home runs. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what it is. That's rocket ship theory. You're off by 1 millimeter. You're off to Pluto instead of Mars. So that's the variance you have to embrace in baseball.
For sure. All right, guys, it'll be a fun year. We'll see you live at 5:30 Eastern for those of you who can make it. And yeah, good luck.